Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. We're mixing it up today because it's sort of post-season, pre-season. We're in that little bit, aren't we? So it's not quite last season. It's not quite next season. We're in the bit. So I thought, let's mix it up. I'm going to get Anton on. I record videos regularly over on Patreon with Anton, getting his thoughts on all things West Ham, really, whether it be the transfer rumours, the reports, the news, the latest match, the upcoming match, everything. We cover it over on Patreon. But I thought, let's bring it to YouTube and get you guys, our subscribers, involved. So, Anton, I guess the first question is for myself, which is, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. What's it like as a player at this period, by the way, where you're just back at pre-season? Have you sort of got holiday blues, or are you starting to get your sleeves rolled up?
No, you can't wait for the season to start. You just want pre-season over and done with. But you realise the importance of pre-season as you get older, as you, especially as you become a professional, you start to understand how important pre-season is for the fundamentals of the season. You know, if your pre-season isn't right and you're playing catch-up, the likelihood of you getting more injuries. So yeah, it's you realise how good it is and how not realise good, but you realise how important it is. But evidently, you can't wait to finish because it's that hard.
Right then, we've got questions for you from our subscribers. I'm going to start with a little bit of a fun one from Chris. He says, with the new kit out this week, did your teammates ever see a kit and think, what the hell is that? I'm not wearing that.
I can't remember. I'm sure they have done. Normally, it's the goalkeeper kits that are the ones that are suspect, you know, and quite loud. But in terms of like West Ham kits, no, I never heard a player say anything bad. I don't know about it anyway.
Did there's I don't know if it's a bit of a myth. I can't remember who it was. It was a former Premier League striker anyway. Said when. Well, I mean, we're still going through it a little bit. It's a bit less for now, but like you said, the goalkeeper kits were like neon, weren't they? It was like bright green. But that striker in particular said he loved it because when he's through on goal, he could just glance and see exactly, because the keeper was so bright, he could see exactly where the keeper was. So he didn't have to look that much. Did it help you as a defender if you were ever running back at your goal? You could technically see where your goalkeeper was exactly in the 18-yarder.
Yeah, I think you can use more your peripheral vision rather than actually get your head up and look. You know, so yeah, it did help in that sense. But yeah, as long as I didn't have to wear that goalkeeper shirt, I was happy.
The Hazre says, how do you feel about the position of the club right now, and how do you think we will do throughout the season?
It's a hard question, that, because one, we haven't received the money yet to go and buy other players. I think once we get a few players in, I think we'll be fine. I think it's going to be a hard season, no doubt. But I think we've got to start well. My main concern is how we start, you know, and we've got enough players now who, like Paqueta, he needs to start very, very well. It took him just over half of a season to get going and became one of our main players when it mattered in the business end. But that excuse is no longer there this year. He's got to hit the ground running as soon as the season starts. I think we're more than competent of hitting the ground running, but we just need them add-ons. If he was asking me, am I worried that we ain't had any signings yet? Then my answer will be yes, 100%. But they will come when they come, and David Moyes is an experienced manager who can try and knit a team together as quick as possible using his experience. So I hope he gets more time than probably. I hope he gets more time. To be able to do that, you know, and so there isn't any excuses, but time will tell.
A bit of two broad questions for you. If we get this transfer window wrong, could you see us being in a relegation battle? But likewise, if we get this transfer window correct, could you see us knocking on the door for European football again?
That is one thing for sure. We're on the peripherals of both. You know, we are on the peripherals of both, but I don't want to be negative. Let's wait until we get to that situation. I think we're going to go more towards the right end of the table, because I think between Mark Noble and the new guy involved, I think they will sign the right players, and David Moyes having an input in who he wants to sign, I think we'll sign the right players and we'll go more towards the right end of the table.
We've got one from Sebastian, says, how much did Alan Pardew rate himself, and did you ever see any of those famous dancing moves?
Oh, well, his nickname was Chocolate for a reason, because if he was one, he would have ate himself. So that tells you everything. That's what his nickname was. But again, I can't speak nothing but highly of the man from my dealings with him as my manager and what he done for me as a football player and as a person. I speak a lot about managers who get the best out of their players, know the person and not just the footballer. And he's someone who definitely done that with me as an 18, 19-year-old. He knew Anton Ferdinand, the person, not Anton Ferdinand, the footballer. He knew both, sorry. But he took pride in me as a person, not just me, my family. He knew my mum's name, my brothers and sisters' names, my dad, and he took a real interest into me as a person. And for what he done for me as a young player, giving me the platform to do what I've done and to achieve what I achieved at West Ham, I'll forever be grateful for him.
Did you ever see any of the moves, though?
No, actually, I might have done it in Dubai one time on a mid-season break, on a rooftop bar. Probably I saw the little jig. Yeah, but that's enough said about that.
Brilliant. Kerry Happy Hammerette says, what current players does Anton think have the quality to potentially step up as our new captain on the pitch and club captain? Should we be looking at someone to take the captaincy long term for the future, or someone else such as Aaron Cresswell, who would likely only be captain for the final season with us? Or do you think getting someone in like James Ward-Prowse would be a good idea amongst the team?
I think, my honest opinion, bringing somebody in to be captain, I wouldn't want to do that. For the simple fact, I think, because I know the club as a player and as a fan, and I always speak about it, you need to be a certain type of player and understand what it takes to wear the West Ham shirt. So to be brought in and given the captaincy, not sure if that would be the right move, in my opinion. Just from my time, obviously being at the parade and seeing the dynamics of the squad, and actually watching him play and seeing how he's on the pitch, I think Agard would be a good captain. He's calm and collective, leads by example in the way that he plays. And having Cresswell as probably club captain and does the stuff around like how Nobes and Deck were, where Deck was the team captain, but Nobes was the club captain. I think having Cresswell as the club captain and Agard as the team captain, I think that'd be a great dynamic.
We've got one from RC that says, I'd like to know Anton's thoughts on West Ham being the supposed academy of football. You're going to rile him up, RC, but he goes on to say, and how it's changed in recent years. It's declined massively, and if we sell Ben Johnson, we'll have no academy first-team players this coming season.
We're famous for it. We've produced some of the best, if not the best, English players that we've seen. Yes, people have moved on in terms of Tony Carr and Jimmy Hampson and people like that. But we've got a good crop that's coming through now, and obviously speaking and knowing Kenny Brown, who's the head of academy now, who's passionate about the football club, passionate about the young players coming through at West Ham. If there's anyone who can start helping to produce along with him, Kevin Keane, who's a fantastic coach who I speak highly of, and I always say he's the best coach I've had as a youth team player and as a first team player, because I had him for both. And the crop that we've got coming through now, I've said it on numerous occasions, if there ain't three of these players that played in the FA Youth Cup last year coming into this first team at some point over the next year, 2 years, then something's wrong. Are we producing players? Yes, we are. They're just not being. I just don't think they're getting the opportunity that they're getting. I was lucky enough to play with Keenan Appiah and Archie Woods over in the TST tournament, and they were both fantastic young players whose application for the football club was second to none. You know, I'm confident in the academy players that we've got. Obviously, Divine's who's been spoken about of being brought into the first team set up this year, first team squad this year. He's another player who will get a chance this year. But when you do get a chance, it's down to the player. They've got to grab it with both hands. But I do think we are producing good players for sure.
We spoke to Mark Phillips on Patreon last night, who was the under-18s assistant manager last season when they won the double, and now
Phillips as well. Sorry, another top guy.
Next season he's going to be Mark Noble's assistant, trying to create that pathway. And when he was speaking about some players he picked out, Archie Woods, not as somebody to look out for, but he was speaking about how the season before last, so before the good season, that season, Archie was fundamental in sort of stamping down the culture in the under-18s, and he was somebody that had the West Ham identity in him. He said, no, this is how we do things at West Ham under-18s. This is how we play football. Now he's progressed. Kadua is now the one, and he is a captain, but Kadua is now the one that says, this is how we do things at West Ham. And it was nice to hear that, actually. Do you think, actually, because there's obviously a feeling of sort of academies not been producing talent for the last couple of seasons, does that take the pressure off the players a little bit? Because you must have felt immense pressure. It's a bit different for you because of your brother, but your group of players coming through were obviously the group after the likes of Michael. I mean, while you were coming through, the players that just left West Ham were now in the England squad. It's like that's the standard of West Ham Academy. Yeah. You go on and play for England. Did you feel that pressure?
Not really. And the West Ham fans didn't allow you to feel that pressure. I mean, they wanted to see a good player, 100%. I was just talking about this earlier. They, in terms of them wanting to see a good player, yes, because that's what they were used to. But they gave you an opportunity, they gave you a chance, and they backed you, which allowed you to give you the confidence to be able to perform for them. I per se didn't feel the pressure of the Michael Carricks and Joe Coles, because simply for the fact of the pressure that I had from Rio. I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question, because the pressure from Rio is that great that I never felt any other pressure.
We've got one from Dean. It's a bit of a fun one, actually. Dean said, I just want to say, growing up, you were my favourite player, and I love how much that you still love the Hammers. My question is, which defender from our current team would you most likely to be paired with, and why?
I would like to be paired with Agard. I think he's fantastic. He's left-footed, I'm right-footed. I think the balance would be nice. Both like to defend 1v1. Both good on the ball. I think it would be a good match. And that's probably the reason why. And he's a nice guy.
Paul, who would be captain, though?
Who would be captain?
Let him be captain? Yeah,
He'll be me.
Good man. Paul says, obviously yourself and Rio began your careers with West Ham. You're definitely one of us, but how far has Rio's view of West Ham been diluted by his time at Leeds and Man United?
I don't even think Leeds comes into the equation when it comes to this question. And I have this discussion with a lot of West Ham fans. Rio knows where his bread was buttered. You know, he still looks for West Ham results and likes to see West Ham doing well, being an elite player, wanting to win things, knowing that Deck's hungry to go and make a legacy in terms of winning things. I think if West Ham, and I think that's the reason why Rio's comments were what they were. It wasn't malicious against West Ham. I can tell you that for a fact. However, he's been most successful as a player at Man United, and where you're successful is where you talk about. You know, it's like, just forget football. It's a normal working job. Where you're successful, you're always going to talk highly of where you're successful. You know, and what essentially is become your legacy. You're going to continue to talk about that. You know, and I think to be elite and to be at the top and be winning things, you have to have some type of affiliation to the football club. Otherwise, it's impossible to. Some of the games you won't get up for. Like every West Ham game I was up for because of the fan in me. You know, and I think that's what happened with Rio. And like I said, we joke about and say like it's a rivalry in our family, but it's not. You know, we both love West Ham. You know, but he loves Man United because that's where he was most successful. And you can't knock him for that, in my opinion.
I can see both sides of it. You look at there's two different examples the way I'm going to look at here, because that Man U team throughout Fergie was like a band of brothers, really. And you see it now, the likes of Berbatov and that, they still talk about Man U, still go do all this Man United media stuff. So it's not just Rio, it's pretty much every player that went and played for, or most players that went and played for Fergie, the mainstays almost become Man United fans when they're there. And you know, you've got examples like Jamie Carragher, who grew up an Everton fan and is a Liverpool legend, and then we accept it the other way around. So James Collins, Carlton Cole, they weren't West Ham fans when they grew up, but they come to the club, they love the club, and now they're big West Ham fans. And so I can completely get it. I get why you would sort of, if you go somewhere and you buy into the ethos, the fans love you, you become a legend of that club. I think it's almost difficult not to support them. I think it's just maybe a bit different. I think the love can be different, though. I think the love for West Ham and the love for Man United can be two different things from the same person, if you like. It's almost like loving your wife, but still loving your ex. It's like a little thing for her. It's just a bit different to what I've got for you, love. It's different kinds of love, isn't it?
The young Anton would have commented on that, but the older Anton ain't commented on that one.
Lewis says, do you think we will ever purchase the London Stadium? And if so, do you think any drastic changes to the infrastructure and match experience would be made?
That I don't know. I'm not in any conversations to know the answer to that question. Is the Olympic Stadium allowing us to go and buy players for 40, 50 million pounds? Yes, it is. That's a fact. So in hindsight, although everything that happened with the stadium, it's done what was said it was going to do, which is going to help us get into Europe because we're going to be able to attract better players, and it's done that. I know why the question's being asked is because a lot of fans do taunt us on the fact that we don't own our stadium. So it's probably the reason why it's being asked. Would we want to own our stadium? Would it be good to? 100% it would be, because it's a massive asset. And yeah, the fan experience could be better, but in time, there's no reason why that can't change.
Did Pi Capital ever discuss anything with you about what they'd potentially do to the stadium? Because the sort of the infrastructure of that stadium and the Olympic part felt like a main part of their sort of bid to try and get involved with West Ham.
I'm actually under NDA to speak about.
Makes sense. I'll take that. I'll take that as a yes. We've got one from Cliff says, I'd like to know Anton's experience of the AZ Alkmaar game events post-match. That's when you were scrapping, Anton.
Well, I was in the thick of him. I'm joking. No, it was surreal. Wasn't nice to be around, I must admit. Seeing, and I respect the players for what they've done. If I was a player and my family was there, then I would have been the same. Another shout out, Nosy, ironing people out on the stairs so they couldn't get through in true West Ham fashion. It wasn't nice to see, but it got dealt with by the West Ham fans, and as we know, you fight fire with fire in them type of situations, and the players that got involved, fair play to them because their families were in danger, and it's understood. And you know, I didn't actually get involved in it until I saw Nobes. When I saw Nobes, then my mindset changed because he's the one who's my friend and the one that I know, who's like a brother. So But seeing him, and then when he explained to me that the families were there, then all changed for me. And I won't say X, Y, Z, but yeah, it was surreal. But being in the ground where we won our semi-finals to go to the Conference League final, that's something that I'll never forget.
What was your favourite game in the Claret and Blue?
Ooh. That is such a hard question.
You must have the answer to this. You must get asked this all the time. How do you not have an answer?
It is. I never put the shirt on lightly. That's what it is. I never put the shirt on lightly. Every time I put the shirt on, it was a fan putting on the shirt. So I never put the shirt on lightly. If my one personal one that was probably the best was the first time I played against Rio, Upton Park. That was probably the best game for me personally and for my family playing that game.
We've got one from Steve. I know you don't want to be negative. I'm not picking the question. Steve's doing this question. He says, if we start badly in the new season, how many games do you think Moyes has got before he's out?
Ooh. I think he gets till Christmas, in my opinion, for the simple fact that what he's done at the football club, won the trophy. For us to not start well and then just get rid of him after winning the trophy, I don't think it'll be the right way. Although football is a results business. But I think the same thing occurs. If there's anyone who can get you out of a situation, he's proven to do it twice, 3 times. So I think he'd get until Christmas.
We've got one from Robert. It's quite topical at the minute. It says, when you played pre-season games, would you set out to win, or did you just see it as a run-out?
I think it depends who we played against. It was mainly about fitness, doing the right things, not making mistakes, and just trying to get as fit as possible. I'll tell you what, though, one thing for sure, that thoroughbred fitness, there's no better feeling. Coming into game 1, you don't really feel it until probably game 3, 4, when you feel like a thoroughbred and you feel like no one can outrun you, no one's fitter than you. That thoroughbred feeling is unbelievable.
We've got one from Ferdy. He says, my question for Anton, due to Declan leaving, who would you take to replace him, and do we need 2 midfielders?
Yeah, I think we do need 2 midfielders, in my opinion. 2 that can do what he could do. One, which was someone who's a disruptor, destroyer, intercept balls, and one who can carry and play as an 8 and get forward. For how well Conor Gallagher done on loan at Chelsea when he was at Crystal Palace when he was there, I think he'd be an ideal fit for us in terms of his legs, his energy, and showing when he's playing regularly, he can perform at this level. And I think I haven't got a name in terms of someone who can destroy and break up play, but I think we definitely need one of them, because that's one thing we're going to miss. We haven't got that player.
Yeah. What Nick says, what is your go-to Indian or Chinese order?
But
you always get funny questions on Emma's chat.
Yeah, I'm not going to reel it off like Big John. I ain't got that in me. But Indian, I like tandoori prawns, a mixed grill with egg pilau rice and korma sauce. That's my Indian.
That feels like that's an expert Indian order. That is, you know what you're wanting when you're walking in there.
Exactly. I don't even order. They know.
Brilliant. Happy days. It's even better. I get offended when that happens. If I go in somewhere and they're like usual, mate, I'm like, I've come here too often. I think that puts me off, if anything. Barry says, would you go back to West Ham via a coaching job?
Not coaching the team per se. I'd like to come in like mentor and do one-on-one sessions with defenders, with attackers, with players. I feel like I could be a great help in that way in terms of doing one-on-ones and giving them my knowledge. I did actually, when I first retired 5 years ago, I won't be able to do it now because I can't move as well. But when I first retired, I actually I wanted to go in and train with the under-18s and the 23s with the likes of Jamal Baptiste and these players to play alongside them in training and try and help them and coach them whilst training with them. You know, not just the defenders, but the strikers, making them understand there's a reason why they're not getting the ball. You know, maybe because their run's rubbish, maybe because the player on the ball can't see them and they can see me, but being able to coach and talk to them while the game's going on. I actually wanted to do that, but it never materialised. But I think for now, I would love to be a part of some of these young players' development because I was them once, and they would like to achieve what I achieved in the West Ham shirt, which is making their debut and establishing themselves in the team. But one-on-one coaching, I think mentoring is where my strengths are and where I'd be best placed.
Right, we've got one. Last couple of questions, and we'll wrap this episode up. We've got one from, I think it's Jamie. It says, when players are being linked in the same position as yourselves, what does that do to a player?
It puts a rock up your ass. No, it's it makes you. It puts fire in your belly. Well, for me, it did. It put fire in my belly to show that people I'm better than that person. You know, and that's what it done for me. I never ever feared a player coming in. Never feared a young player coming underneath me. James Tompkins is a big example of that. I never feared James Tompkins. I think he'd be the first one to say that I tried to help him a lot because I didn't fear him taking my position because that's not the way that I am. My thing was more, okay, he's going to be playing with me then, and whoever is playing with me at that time, he's going to push them out because that ain't going to be me. But he's a young player who's come through the ranks, and I want to see him do well, and that's the way that I was.
And final question, did you ever have a manager who would speak with the senior players about players that they wish to purchase?
Not that they wish to purchase. I don't think managers like to do that. It's false pretense. I don't think they like to do that. But when a player's coming in or they've signed and they're going to come in, I think that's when managers will collar you as a senior player and say, look, this is what it is. Maybe some of the senior players, will get asked, what do you think about this player or whatever. But in terms of, for me personally, I as a player, I didn't like them type of questions because essentially someone's career is in your hands. And I think it's unfair being a fellow professional and someone going, what do you think about that player? And you go, I'm not having him. You know, and that could potentially, that could be his move gone. You know, and so I'm not a firm believer of that style of management. Yes, when you sign the player and this is the player that's coming, like, how do you see best partnering with that player and that type of stuff? But asking whether you think the player's good enough to come to the football club or what do I think about them, their ability? I don't think that's a fair question to a player.
Well, Anton, thank you very much. Pleasure as always. You guys at home, if you enjoyed this different video for us during the awkward bit of the season, please do drop a like on and subscribe to the Hammers Chat. And myself and Anton will catch up with you over on Patreon if you're a subscriber over there. See you in a bit.
See ya.